This episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast is brought to you in partnership with ministryleague.com. We would love for more people to discover this show, so please rate and review us on iTunes or your podcast provider. Feel free to share on your social media and subscribe at benandtravis.com for the free ebook, 28 Days of Focused Living. Welcome into the Helping Healing Humor podcast with Ben and Travis. We are glad that you guys are here with us listening in once again. And we are coming to you from my old bedroom at my parents' house. There used to be a bunk bed right back there behind us, and some really interesting memories at this old house. But we're thankful to be hanging out here for a little while, and thankful that you guys are with us. We just got through celebrating my dad's birthday, so we thought we would jump in here and record a couple of podcasts since we were together. So why not?
For sure. Man, what a great birthday. I'm glad I got to be here and participate and get to see some cool stuff. Pulled out his old Central High School baseball jersey, and awesome. I'm in town to do Jacksonburg homecoming tomorrow.
As if Jacksonburg hasn't had enough of you lately.
Yeah, I know.
You just did their retreat.
Not often you get invited to do retreat the week before and then invited back for homecoming the next week, but here we are.
And I was going to share, since it's Dad's birthday and back in this old room where the bunk beds are, I remember as a kid, my dad got on to us, and, you used to get whoopings back then. So I got a whooping. And my brother and I were bunking in this room together, and my oldest brother was down the hall. And so Dad gave us a whooping, and I whispered to my brother, I said, "Man, that didn't hurt at all." And my dad came back in that door right there and said, "Well, do you want some more?" I said, "No, sir, that'll be enough." I'm sorry. It did actually. It hurt. It hurt a lot. So anyway, you never got any whippings in your day, did you?
No, I'm pretty sure I touched all the bases, as in every aunt and uncle, and if you're out there, I'm not challenging. I'm not challenging any of you that didn't get it on the disciplining me, man, but I appreciate it now.
Yeah.
Now.
I mean, hey, it got us through, right?
Did.
I mean,
it did. We're still here.
I don't know where we would be without some of the disciplinary actions of our parents. And so anyway, here we are. And so we've had a couple of people write in some questions, send us some things, maybe ideas for the podcast. And so another topic that I know we've probably covered at some point, but maybe not in great detail, that we're going to just touch on just a little bit today as we speak together, is the topic of divorce. Somebody brought that up and asked us about that. And me personally, in my family, we didn't go through that. I didn't go through that with my parents. From the standpoint of this podcast, Travis, you did experience that, and you had to walk through that journey with your parents getting a divorce when you were pretty young. I don't remember the exact age that happened. I know we were doing a lot of things together during that time, but just kind of tell us a little bit about that experience and maybe some things that were helpful, I guess, that have been helpful to you through the years.
Yeah, I think we actually did. I think we've done 2 episodes, House Divided, and we talked about it. And so this time I kind of want to talk about some of the things that were maybe a little more difficult growing up, maybe teenage years, and discuss some of that and kind of the outcome. I always wanted to fit in. I felt like I needed to feel acceptance. And I think I spoke a little bit about the loyalty thing when we kind of covered the discussion earlier. But you're kind of looking for that place to fit in, and you experience that trauma, and you try to. And I'm already, as we've talked about at length, I'm a 7, and so you're always kind of looking for the next good time. You don't want to feel bad, and so you want to feel good. And I think that's something that kind of bore out of that was, and I think it's something that all men and really human beings in general at different levels deal with. But lust, it was something that was bore out of that, the need to feel acceptance and also to feel in control of the situation. And so that was just kind of a big deal for me, because, I think everybody's looking for some way out of feeling bad. And then
Yeah.
we oftentimes, and I think the Bible is very, open about that we really can't trust ourselves. Jesus said that the issues, all these bad things come from the inside. And we have a lot of people out there in the world saying, oh, trust your heart, trust your gut, go with what feels right. And man, is
Yeah.
that, I mean, that's just something that's not true, biblically speaking, spiritually speaking, in relation. I mean, on every level, very rarely should you go with your gut feeling or what makes you feel good.
Yeah. So, you were mentioning that about in the scripture, James chapter 1, we're not tempted by God. God doesn't tempt man. He can't be tempted. And so he doesn't tempt us, but each man is drawn away by his own lust and enticed. And so, Satan seems to know the things that will get at our hearts. He seems to know the ways. And like anything else, if you look in the animal kingdom, the weakest ones are the ones that get attacked in the herd. And so a lot of times when it comes to these things, like divorce or other situations, you've kind of touched on that with those difficult moments, with that trauma, with those things that you're going through, it makes kind of a weak spot where those things can make their way into your life.
Yeah, and you've spoke to, when you're tired, when you're hungry, when you're lonely. I don't know what all of them are.
Halt BS or Halt SB. I change it around so it doesn't sound bad, but the original is Halt BS: hungry, angry, lonely, tired, bored, stressed. So when you get into one of those situations, we're at our weakest, and most of the time that's when you see people give in to addiction, give in to pornography, especially. I think that's always been kind of taught with the pornography thing, is that those are when people at their weakest.
And the thing is that's absolutely true. And I'm kind of bridging the digital in analog. I've heard that digital analog. I kind of am in the middle of growing up where that shifted, where if you wanted to find that stuff, you had to go and go in a store, and I mean, it's real personable. You got to look somebody in the eyeball and make that. And now we have cell phones and computers, and the internet is everywhere, and you don't have to do those things. It's so accessible. Which accessibility is what makes internet great, but not in this instance. And so, I can't express anyway, even if you're not experienced a trauma like that you have to guard your heart from those things. And parents out there, be, sober minded, be on your guard of your children, because it is so easily and readily accessible, and therefore a problem. And I think that a lot of times the devil really likes that we're afraid to talk about things like this.
One of the things I've always heard is that the pornography stands, if you kind of imagine like a bar stool that's got three legs, and it stands on those three things, and it's anonymity, so nobody knows about it, affordability, which is the case now especially, and accessibility. So those three A's are what it stands on. And so if you think about when we were younger, when we were kids, there wasn't the online stuff, so there was a couple of those things weren't an issue. So affordability, you had to go somewhere and buy it, unless you had somebody who was going to let you look at their stuff, or go to somebody's house, or and I know that happened at school. That's probably the first time I ever was given the opportunity or tempted with it, was friends at school, or somebody had some. So you got accessibility, which you had to go to a store and get it, you had to buy it. And so then the only thing was anonymity, and again, you had to go somewhere. So somebody's going to see you, and everybody would go, people would hide to go buy that, or they would have to do something and get into one of those worlds. So now that's not the case. Now it is free on the internet. Most of in most places you can, obviously, I'm sure there's things you can buy, but it's free. You're on your phone or your computer, and nobody has to know about it, and accessible. So all of those things are completely blown out of the water.
Yeah.
And so here we have a whole generation of people who are having access to this at younger and younger ages, and going through some trauma like you have went through with the divorce. That opened the door for you, but think about how many more traumas there. I mean,
Oh
the
yeah.
divorce rate is up.
Yeah.
You know, all these different things that have happened and are happening in our society today. And when people are in those weak places, this is an easy escape.
Yeah, and I've had discussion. I've been a minister for 20 plus years now. We won't get into all those numbers, but I've had discussions, and one of the lies that I think Satan tells, and it's because we're really ashamed of the topic. We don't want to talk about it. It's embarrassing. It's awkward. But anything that's in the dark is,
Yeah.
but the light represents the ability to discuss these things. And I've had kids who are like, I just felt like I was weird, and it was, I was the only one. And, that couldn't be farther from the truth. We all struggle with lust at some level. Now, what have we done because of that? We don't, we're not in a comparison game, but man, nothing could be further from the truth that everybody at some level has struggled with it. It even says that, Jesus was tempted in all ways that we are. And so you kind of have to
What were the
assume that,
temptations? Yeah.
that was in there. And so, I think that the devil loves to play that game
Yeah.
that, well, nobody else. And if everybody finds out if something, then, nobody will ever look at you the same. And it's like, well, not really. The weird thing would be if you haven't had,
Right.
that struggle. And if you haven't, awesome, don't change. But, I think the majority would easily say that, yes, I've done that before. But also I think the other thing is, as a man, image based, I think one of the biggest detriments in my struggle is that man, I can recall those images and
Oh,
at
yeah.
the worst possible time. And so it's just like one of those things where if, you've not looked at things you shouldn't, man, I cannot stress to you, don't ever start, because, we are such visual beings.
Yeah.
And so, it's disappointing. That's hard. It makes it difficult to overcome it. But that's the beauty of it, is that Jesus can redeem any situation and any
Yeah.
struggle. It's just how much are you willing to get help to do so?
Yeah, and I think we were talking about how accessible it is today, and I'll just here recently, I've been tempted to just get rid of all Facebook, Instagram. I did just finally delete my Instagram because I was spending too much time on there.
Mhm.
But also those reels that pop up sometimes are not very clean, and they're not probably what you would say on the level of what most people think of as pornographic. But certainly not clean, not good. And there's, I just got tired of seeing those things.
Yeah.
So, I got off one. I've been close to getting off the other, just because of that stuff. And so because the problem is once you open the door to it, and that's what a lot of people will tell you is it makes it so much easier to get into other things, and it continues on a path when something's
Sin is
not
aggressive.
enough.
He's not going to leave you alone. Sin's not going to leave you alone. And once again, I don't think Satan is all powerful or everywhere like God is. We don't need his help to get into trouble.
Right.
But sin is
But
aggressive.
he sure will supply.
He sure will. He has no problem with that. And I think that Every Young Man's Battle was a great book that read and taught to bounce the eyes, not to linger. I think that's part of what you're saying.
Mhm.
Get rid of those things. Cut it. Jesus went so far to say your right eye, your right hand, and
Yeah.
I would much rather you get rid of your Instagram and your Facebook and your smartphone or whatever before you go that route. But that's him telling you how important it is to control what you're influenced by. The other thing is I know that we grew up and it was always kind of harping on the young ladies to dress, appropriately. And we can't stress that enough. Yes, that's a good thing. And I've heard before, well, it's not fair. And my response is that sin doesn't play fair.
Right.
It's there aren't any like rules that are set when sin, and so I think the thing is to take the responsibility. If I knew of a way in which I could help, hopefully I would have it on my heart to do so, to help. There is responsibility on the man to learn to not go down that path. But anything we can do to help, whatever it is, we should be found, because it isn't fair. Things aren't fair. Life is not fair. And certainly sin is not fair, and Satan's not going to play fair.
Right. And there's just so many ways in which today that commercials on regular television, anywhere else, and it's been that way, I guess, for years. But there's so many ways in which people can be tempted in these areas. And as a counselor, I've seen it ruin several marriages because and let me stress this too, that this is something that I think a lot of people believe that, hey, if I get married, these temptations go away. When I get married, I won't be tempted to look at images online. I won't be tempted to watch the movies that I watched before. I won't need those things. And that's not the case. That's not been the case with the majority of the people that I've seen who struggle with pornography and other things that have ruined their marriage, is because, it doesn't go away. It's still going to be there because it is one of those things where we're medicating almost either a trauma or some desire or something that was missing, or something not necessarily in a relationship. It's not like, and I've tried to stress this because this is where it hurts marriages, is somebody said, why was I not enough? Why did he have to look at something? And there's cases where, why did she have to? Ladies, I'm probably gonna hurt some feelings here, but I'm fairly certain that romance novels are the same thing for women that images are for men, because it's an emotional thing, and you're reading that and you're falling in love, or having this image in your mind of something that's happening. So I think those sorts of things, why was I not enough? And it's not that you weren't enough, because it's not on you. This isn't your fault that these things are happening. It's some need that somebody has that they're fulfilling aside from that.
In an unhealthy way.
In an unhealthy way, exactly.
Just like
not making
any substance
for it. Right.
It has different impacts, and I think
a coping mechanism.
Yes,
was what I was getting at. Not a healthy
That's
thing,
the word.
but a coping mechanism for the stuff that's going on.
And honestly, like for our females, I've never seen it at this level. The pressure that's put on you to be open to these things.
Yeah.
And wow, I just can't imagine what that's like. And the other part of this is to encourage you to try to battle that, to fight that, because, there's a lot of guys who claim to be Christian out there that set an unhealthy bar, whatever it is. And I think the same thing with romance novels or movies. You just see these romantic guys, that they're just, those guys are not real. I hate to tell you. And it's the same thing with for the men, those aren't real, and they're setting up some level of disappointment because our expectations are not in line with what God has said. And so either our expectations are too high or they're too low.
Yeah.
And, that's what I tell our young ladies at school. Hey, listen, you don't, your standards don't need to be way above what anybody could ever do, but you shouldn't have to lower healthy standards.
Yeah. And, there's so much, you were talking about, there's so many things that are being tempted, people being tempted today. Something that didn't exist too when we were kids was sending pictures to one another. Not stuff you're getting online and seeing these professionals or whatever. We're talking about kids sending pictures to each other, and those kinds of things, again, images that get burned into your mind that are hard for you to get rid of years later. And you're just thinking about, hey, I'm going to run into this person 20 years from now.
Yeah.
And that's what they're going to be remembering. And on top of that, now it's not just what's here, but you don't ever get rid of those things.
No.
They start getting shared. They get posted. They get, sent out. It's like throwing those feathers into the wind. You don't get it all back.
All right, Ben, as we like to do, we're going to wrap up with a fun question. And as I'm excited for you guys, I'm not a big Major League Baseball fan, but I listen to it in respect for my family and have an opportunity to have something to talk about at Thanksgiving, maybe other than the Iron Bowl as it's coming up. But the Braves, man, what a big deal, right?
Yeah, man, I'm super fired up. I watched them as a kid all the time. Went some years during college that I didn't pay as much attention to baseball in general. But the last several years, I've really been following them, and it's been fun. This year, I probably watched just about every game or followed about every single game in some way. In the postseason, I was glued to it. Had to watch some of it on my phone. I had to watch the whole World Series on my phone because Comcast was not good to me, and we didn't get. I mean, my lines just gave up on me for whatever reason. So I'm still waiting to get my internet back at my house. But it was awesome.
Dude,
I mean, it was amazing.
I out of respect to you guys, I would listen every night till the Astros scored, and then I would hang it up because I'm not superstitious, just a little stitious.
Just a little stitious.
And there was a couple of times that the Astros never scored. So,
and we were appreciative. We were appreciative of that. We're thankful that you were watching it with us.
Wanted you guys to win. Wanted my friends to be happy because, well, just make Thanksgiving better. And you know that'll go a long way once Auburn beats us in the Iron Bowl. You know,
let's hope
help us get over it. But
we don't want that to happen.
I want to ask you favorite moment of the we'll go postseason. In fact, I mean, other than winning the World Series, which is a pretty big deal, is there a moment?
Man, it's hard to pick any moment that was.
Our player. We'll go favorite player.
Well, I mean, all of it. I loved the roster this year. It's been a struggle all year. I was really down on. I guess I could say my favorite part was watching the bullpen be so amazing because they had struggled all year. I had been down on them, as had all of my friends. We had probably said a lot of things about the bullpen that we regret.
Is this your apology?
This is my apology, formal apology to Matzik and to Jackson and to especially Jackson, Luke Jackson, and to Will Smith, Mentor even. We gave some grief all year, but especially to Jackson and Smith. And we didn't believe in you guys. Even through the postseason, we were a little nervous every time they took the mound. But they came out and just absolutely wore out every one of the opponents. I mean, of course, happy for Freddie Freeman, super happy for Snitker, who's been in the program for 45 years for just the Braves. So awesome. Many good stuff. But I think just watching the bullpen was both the moment and the players.
Well, I love the video where Soler hits that homer and all the Astros fans, like their little fans or whatever they were doing, just drop.
Yeah.
Because it was over. Like the game wasn't over, but like that ball was not coming back.
If you see that moment was probably one of the greatest moments of the postseason.
Swatted.
He kills it. And he knows it. Everybody else knows it. The moment he hits it, everybody in the stands go, well, there it goes.
Gone.
So that was a huge thing. But yeah, it was so much fun. So.
Well, I'm fired up for you guys. I know if I'm still fired up, that means y'all are jacked. So congratulations and appreciate once again your time and conversation.
Yeah, man.
Ready to thrive in your ministry work? Heritage Christian University has just released their upcoming spring semester course offerings. Courses such as History of the Bible with Wayne Kilpatrick, Marriage and Family Counseling with Jeffrey Brothers, or Acts with Justin Guin. To see all the classes available, visit www.hcu.edu or email media@hcu.edu for more information. Nearly all of these classes were created to be taken remotely, so no matter your schedule or location, you can be a part of learning more about the Bible this year. The deadline to apply is December 1st, so don't wait. Apply today.
Thanks for being with us for this episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast. Be sure to download our free ebook, 28 Days of Focused Living, at benandtravis.com and receive all of our Helping Healing and Humor extra content directly in your inbox. We look forward to having you join us at the same Ben and Travis time, same Ben and Travis channel.